Hey, it's me, Nalthazar, and welcome to another Magic Puzzle Quest video. In this one, I'm going to be going over two cards from M21 that were not on my chase list. So this might come as a little bit of a surprise to you guys, but this deck wound up being really fun. I played it actually a fair amount that this first little bit, and I really enjoyed it. I surprisingly enjoyed it. So the two cards that I decided to base it around were Obsessive Stitcher and Twinblade Assassins. Now, Obsessive Stitcher doesn't really jump out at you as like a super powerful card. It reads, as long as you have 3 or more different creature cards in your graveyard that are not named Obsessive Stitcher, this thing gets Berserker. That part is pointless. Activate 2 blue or black, discard a card, and draw 2 cards. Also, largely pointless. And whenever this creature dies, pick one of the first 4 creature cards from your graveyard and return it to the battlefield under your control. That's the really big deal, right? So the first thing that makes it a big deal is that you get to pick one of the first 4 different creature cards from your graveyard, which means that if you're running a mutating creature, so you're running 4 total creatures in your deck, you can always choose to avoid the mutating creature when you're pulling things from the graveyard with this. Now, with Twinblade Assassins have Morbid, so if something dies this turn, Morbid triggers. And actually the way that Morbid looks on the screen, which you'll see soon, is actually pretty cool. I like the way they did the animation. So it's 15 for a 7/6, which is already okay. And then with the Morbid, at the end of your turn, draw a card and give it X mana, where X is the base mana cost of the last creature in your graveyard. So if you look at the creatures that I'm running in this deck, the mana costs are 10, 15, 14, and 16. So it basically guarantees that I get at least 10 mana, but more likely I'm going to be getting 14, 15, 16 for an average of 15 mana, which is very good. Now, the bottom bit of the creatures, so Garuda and Otrimi, are both based on dumping things in the graveyard. So Garuda dumps things in the graveyard when it enters the battlefield. Otrimi is going to dump a bunch of creatures in my graveyard, and it's going to give me free creatures back. For that matter, when you get the ball rolling with this deck, Otrimi is going to give you 3 free creatures every turn from your graveyard. And since you're going to be playing them, each of those creatures are going to be dumping 3 more creatures into your graveyard, for a total of 9 creatures entering the graveyard, which means that you're just going to be able to keep repeating those 3 creatures from the graveyard. Now, Garuda, because of the companion ability, would be fantastic, but Garuda's companion ability requires that you have all even mana cost cards in the deck. This deck sadly does not have all even cost cards. I may actually try a version of it that does, but this version does not because I wanted to run the Twinblade Assassins. I've got Deadbridge Chant to give me another free thing from the graveyard every single turn. I've got Unbreakable Bond to give me yet another free thing from the graveyard, but then to also give it lifelink. And then I've got Black Market, Castle Lockdwain, both of them for gem conversion. And, well, Glimpse the Unthinkable to throw more things in the graveyard. Now, you might be thinking, well, okay, so this is going to be another one of those Nalthazar decks where he's using Liliana Untouched by Death. Well, no. This is actually a Liliana Death's Majesty deck, because my immediate thought upon seeing the Stitcher is that she was going to be seeing a lot of Snitches, because Snitches get Stitches, and Liliana Death's Majesty is more than happy to anoint all of those Snitchers with some good Stitches by bringing them back to the battlefield as zombies. Now, because you get to destroy a creature and bring it back to the battlefield, that means that with the Stitcher, you target the Stitcher with Liliana's first ability, it dies, you get something back from your graveyard, and because something died, the Twinblade Assassin's Morbid is going to trigger, which is going to draw you a card that's going to get 10, 14, 15, or 16 mana, which is basically a free card if you look at the deck. Nothing here actually costs more than 16 mana, so it basically just means you draw a free card and it gains full mana, which is really good. Now, the other crazy thing about this deck is because of Obsessive Stitcher giving you a free creature every turn, and Otrimi's Mutations giving you up to 3 free creatures every turn, and Deadbridge Chant giving you a free creature every turn, you're going to get to a point where if you set this up, you're getting 5 free creatures from your graveyard every single turn. And because of the way that Black Market works, where it's going to convert more gems to black whenever things die, and you're going to be constantly using that first ability Anoint on the Stitcher, that means that you're going to be converting so many gems to black, you're going to be able to anoint every turn. So the whole thing works remarkably well. It's very fun. If you get Obsessive Stitcher and Twinblade Assassins, I would strongly advise that you go ahead and put them in a Liliana Death's Majesty deck and give them a shot. It's a lot of fun. So let's go ahead, roll into that gameplay, and see how it works. Alrighty, so going up against Brokon, we know that we've got, at the very least, probably a decent opponent. Getting Castle Loctwain and the Deadbridge Chant in our starting hand is fine. We don't have anything in the graveyard immediately, so that means that the Deadbridge Chant isn't going to be able to immediately do anything for us, but Loctwain is going to give us some gem conversion, and it's also going to give us some card draw, which is really valuable. And then having Death Sprout in our hand means that we've also got some removal just in case some terrible kind of thing happens. So here, when you're looking at the board, we've definitely got a 5 match, so I'm going to go ahead and take it, and then I can actually take that green landfall to draw a card and give it half mana, which is pretty perfect, actually, because getting Glimpse the Unthinkable means that we can start dumping things in our graveyard. So once things start dumping in the graveyard, this deck just gets rolling. And once this deck gets rolling, there's really nothing that your opponent can do. Like, it's kind of game over for them. So it picks up steam really, really quickly. It's pretty scary. So here with Deadbridge Chant and Glimpse the Unthinkable, we're going to be able to make it so that we are going to have stuff in our graveyard. Ideally, the Glimpse is going to dump some creatures so that Deadbridge Chant can start pulling us back some creatures. Getting some black markets is nice, just because we can go ahead and start reinforcing those. Getting some more black gem conversion, because this Liliana really very strongly benefits from black gem conversion. You can see that her mana bonus to black is +5, which is very substantial. So here, looking at the matches, unless we get a good cascade or something, it's unfortunately not looking like we're going to be able to get both of our black markets down. But that's okay. We get a Twinblade Assassin down. We get one of the markets down. Deadbridge Chant is probably going to be getting us more and more creatures. Brokon's definitely playing some kind of creature abomination deck. But here we've got the Stitcher. And so that means that starting next turn, we can actually make our combo go off. Because that's going to mean that with the Stitcher, we can just keep pulling things back. Now here you can see that animation, that little purple glow around the assassin. That's the Morbid effect. So that's what Morbid looks like. I think it looks pretty cool. I did that in part to turn the assassin into a zombie, so I could pull it back with Liliana's second if I wanted to. And also just for the Morbid to draw a card and give it mana. So here you'll see that the card that it drew me was Otrimi, which is really nice because now I can just immediately go ahead and mutate that onto something. And then I've got a second Otrimi, which means that I can actually just go ahead and mutate both of my Otrimis onto my creatures. So by anointing the Stitcher here, we're going to go ahead and get to pick a creature. We're definitely going to take Garuda, because Garuda is going to dump a bunch of things in the graveyard. You'll see that the assassin gets the Morbid trigger, and the little purple glow is around it. And we've got a whole bunch of really great matches at our disposal, because we've got our black gem conversion really bumping right now. So we're going to be able to make black gem matches on all of our turns. First priority for mutation should always be Garuda, because that's going to dump a whole bunch more things in the graveyard. Second priority is definitely going to be the assassin. Unfortunately, the Unbreakable Bond is going to try and bring us back in Otrimi. We don't want Otrimi to actually cast, but it's really not too big of a deal as things go. Seeing a Garruk's Harbinger here with protection from black isn't too big of a deal either. I know that means that Death Sprout can't target the thing, but here you'll get to start seeing just how many creatures we get back. It's just totally nutty. So we've got, actually we can actually just go ahead and play everything in our hand here, but I'm going to go ahead and toss the Unbreakable Bond just in case. So we're going to anoint the Stitcher, and in anointing the Stitcher, we're going to get to bring another Garuda back from the graveyard, which is going to make the Garuda pretty thick. And then that's going to be creature number 1. And then we're going to be getting creature number 2 here after our match. And that's going to be dumping more things in our graveyard. We can't use the, the Death Sprout, but that's fine. Thing has hexproof, and I mean, just look at all of this free mana, guys. Like, look, like this is a black deck that's drawing into so many cards that I've got a full hand every single turn, and I have the mana to play it all. It's kind of like black, blue, and green all in one. Like, look at this. I got a full hand, full mana. I can go ahead and use Anoint again on the Stitcher to bring back another creature. I can go ahead and play all 3 creatures from my hand. I might as well take a Garuda again to dump all of that extra stuff into the graveyard, and then Brocon's dead. Like, I've got some pretty serious power on the board, and that's it. So the deck ramps really quickly. You get a ton of card draw, you get a ton of mana, you get a ton of recursion, just stuff coming back from the graveyard. It's really fun. So if you get these cards, go ahead and try them out. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.